Good day, folks. This is Omar Hosea, servant. Was meditating on some things, did some research, was reminded of some things, was even just pondering on a whole bunch of other things. I'm going to take this into prayer. Heavenly Father, we ask you for your permission. We ask you for your wisdom. We ask you for your confirmation. We ask that you let your spirit be filled in this, and that you be glorified in all of these things, and let the words hold true according to your will, not my will or anybody else's will. But Father, I request to let my will be in your will, for your will is best judge and the best knower of all things. In that I humbly rest my soul. Selah. So, one, I want to cover over about the pale skin and you so-called black folks and some of you foreigners. I mean, really, if these so-called Israelis or the people of God or the people of the Bible, why would they have the need to sell people's organs? Why would they have the need to put a fence around Jerusalem when Jerusalem is not the only holy city, but Samaria is one of the cities in the kingdom of Israel? Because you have the northern kingdom, which is Samaria, and then you have the southern kingdom, which was Jerusalem. So there's two kingdoms when they split. And so when they say they're sacrificing the blood of children, in their own words, but they don't eat the meat, they put the meat in the meat grinders with the kosher, so-called kosher stuff. Is that the act of the Most High's children? You have to ask yourself. And then when you think about it like this, 1945 is when Israel, so-called, quote, became a state. Now, there's nowhere on the planet about statesmanship, about states, until Greece and Rome. So it's a pale skin idea of having a state. And so we have to address those things too in our churches, in our synagogues, in our temples and things like that, instead of being blinded about that. Another thing, we got Jacob's ladder. When Jacob had a dream of going to the stairway of heaven. There's a song called Stairway to Heaven, you know, step by step. And even in other churches and other murals, they show the steps going to heaven, because it was the vision of Jacob's ladder. Nobody talks about that vision and why Jacob became Israel. He who wrestled with the idea that he had seen the vision of heaven, or the stairway to heaven. He wrestled with that idea because he didn't think, or he didn't trust that, hold up, me hit stairway to heaven? So he wrestled with that, and boom, he got the name of Israel, meaning he who wrestles with the knowledge of the Most High. So we have another vision, Joseph. Now, we know Satan had fell from the stars, or from the heavens, from jealousy. Because when the Most High told the celestials that they would serve the perfect creation, which is humans, there was a jealousy. There was an envy. And so we have to understand where the source of jealousy and envy come from before it was even implanted in my head or your head or anybody else's mind, be it civilization, pale skin, whoever. So if you see the celestial, the seen, and the unseen come to play, meditate on this. Joseph, or Yosef, went to his father, Jacob, who is the father of Israel, 13 tribes, but only 12 tribes are part of the earth. There's one who's the connection with the Most High, that's Levi. So that's why it's 13. That's why it's 12 and not 13. Not because of the so-called count, but the promise. The promise was, Levi, you are my portion, thus says the Most High. So you're not going to be counted amongst your brothers. So there's 12 tribes. But in the totality of the truth, there's 13 tribes. So because there's not, they don't get nothing on the earth, there's kind of 12 tribes that are earthbound, or not strictly to the earth, but they inherit some things on earth. So now, but Joseph, he has a vision of how many stars bowing down to him? 12 stars. And what fell from heaven that came down and would not bow to Adam? A star called Satan. Said he'd seen him fall from heaven. Boom. Same thing with Israel when they fell from the heaven of the mind. Boom. When they refused to bow down to Joseph. And so they put him in prison. Satan put humanity in prison. Think about that. Now, we know it was written that Enoch didn't die, but he ascended without death. But Joseph didn't die, he ascended without death. Elijah didn't die, he ascended without death. Yeshua, we know for certain that he didn't die, he ascended without tasting death. But there was many men who had died and went to sleep into the dirt and still waiting. Like it says that when the Messiah went to Hades, it said that he didn't argue with Satan or the benevolent ones or the lesser ones about the bodies of Moses and some of the other messengers of the Most High. He said he didn't argue with them. So you know, you gotta use your wisdom with these things, people, and don't let the trickery of the devil or the trickery of man get you hyped up about these false doctrines. There's another one that was brought to my attention. You know, same thing with the story of Shem, and I shared this with you guys before. Nobody wants to talk about these details. People want to skip over to the fantasy or to the religious and not the universal facts in the history, the consistencies of the things that happen in history. We just found out that there was a book that was in Arabic, and we told y'all people that Yeshua spoke Aramaic. That's what Muhammad the story about Muhammad was to come, because it was through the Shemite bloodline. So think about it. If Yeshua spoke Aramaic, most of the scriptures was written in Hebrew and Aramaic. Muhammad comes in Aramaic. How come Africa didn't get any prophets? How come everybody want to be a god and goddess, but nobody wants to be a prophet? And then some people say, well, the Hebrews are nothing but some animal lovers, But wouldn't it be more beautiful to lead a herd than to place yourself on high, or to place yourself above and look down on people? That's the same thing that happened with Satan, or Satan. He wanted to make himself a god. He wanted to make himself like God. He wanted to be a controller. But when you look at African history and you look at Kemet history or so-called Egypt history, they've always prided themselves on gold, which comes from the earth, on statues that are made from people's hands, from architecture that comes from people's art or the craftsmen of people's hands as well. And they've always looked towards the outer self and not so much the inner self for the wisdom. But really, no, don't take my word for it. Ask your local Egyptian Scientologist, name one prophet from Egypt. Not a king, not a so-called goddess, not none of that. Because wisdom is not a... You can't place wisdom. Anything. Wisdom always is, and wisdom always was, and wisdom always will be. And she's knocking at your door right now. Until next time, this is Omar Jose saying thank you for your support. We appreciate a lot of you guys and watching our videos and sharing them and researching them. We could easily charge people for our information. We could easily create some type of religion, and we could easily start misleading people's mind and start collecting money to do this, do that for our own personal grandeur. We could also easily take tads and stuff like that and get planes, stuff like that. But guess what? Unlike the Egyptians who think that they can take all that stuff with them, you know what I mean? I know better than that. I can't take none of that stuff with me. And I don't want to. Because what's good on earth is good for earth. And when it's my time to leave this realm, I don't want none of this stuff of the realm. I want things all new. So keep it tight, keep it fresh. Hug one another, man. Share good news with each other. Let's practice honesty and lift each other up. And if we can't agree, research and come back and correct the love. Peace.